If you, oh, okay, when you're ready, I'd just like to say something.
Yeah, well, we're just doing the now.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I'll just say the sound is a little bit distorted. I think that's partly because everybody's trying to talk at the same time.
All right, we're now live on YouTube.
Welcome all to this last meeting of the Town Events Committee, which events do. And we've been running quite a year, haven't it? In which case we've got apologies for absence. Rabina's only green, isn't she? We've got any other apologies? No, two decorations of interest. I think we all know what they are. There isn't no conflict of interest. They're all on the members registered. And we get paid before moving to the agenda. Item 3. I think Councillor Lawley wants to say something to the committee, then we can get back to the team.
Thank you, Robin. I'd just like to say on behalf of the Parade Committee how grateful we are for the input from the Events Committee in financially supporting us, but also from the Town Council. The Town Council staff were magnificent, and without them and all the work put in by Amanda and her team and Louise and everyone else, the parade wouldn't run. And it's only when you actually see the faces of the kids who see it go by. And I did ask a few children what they thought of it, and they all thought it was great and they really loved it. So I think it's something which hopefully you'll carry on doing in future years, because I think it's a really great event, community event for the town. So I was going to come down. I thought, well, Zoom presents an opportunity where I can stay in a warm. So no, really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all very much, both to the Events Committee and to Buckingham Town Council. Thank you.
And thank you, Howard, for what you did to make it happen as well, and what you did on the day.
Yeah.
Well, it's a small part. It is a combined effort, and between all of us, we bring something to the town which they wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
Well done.
You'll have to let us all know what the theme is next year.
We have a very involved meeting in probably January, February down the pub.
Well, that sounds
Okay, I'll let you get on with the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Bye.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas to all of you, and Happy New Year.
See ya.
Tell them.
See ya.
Be careful.
Thank you very much. And we'll
I'm sorry.
get sat down and start the next time. Which had minutes of the last meeting. Has anybody got any questions or queries or observations they want to bring on there before you vote to agree them? Are you happy to agree those minutes?
Yep.
Go ahead, please. And then unanimously agree. There's a vote confidence to a draft, isn't there? All right. In which case, we'll item 4 action list. And please look through the action list. You'll see some of the things are on the agenda. But not quite a lot of it on the agenda. I don't think we've got the access element on the agenda. I understand from that we've received some correspondence over the concerns over access. I believe that we came in after the agenda went out. We wrote to Mark Court for Buckingham about the town centre, and we were discussing the condition of the pavement, if you remember.
Yeah.
We were waiting for a response. But there has been a response. I don't know whether we just receive verbal update on it and then bring it to the next meeting and decide how we act on it. That can't happen, it's not on the agenda.
Well, the response the office has had is that the work will take place in the new year, with pay being prioritised as well. That's a key area. So I believe that is the change from the original.
Yeah. Well, if I asked the circulated, we had agreed with the press list, but I'd rather it sort of be done through a meeting on the content of it, and we read it at the next meeting. We waited a little while for it, and no point in going half that. We can discuss where we feel it's adequate, and we will be in the new year then, won't we? So hopefully we'll see the men out there levelling the pavements and putting the curbs in. And,
No date,
no date, the new year. We didn't know which year.
any time.
That could be any time. So should we discuss it then? That remember having it on the agenda.
It is on the
It
agenda.
is.
though. Item 12 is access.
Yeah, but there's no letter.
Well, it is referred to in the action list, though.
Yes, but
The
the
letter.
letters came in, as I said earlier.
Well, it is showing on what you've said is on the action list.
The letter on the action list?
Well, not the letter, but what was in the letter is.
I was going to ask for the letter.
Okay.
Can't actually make a consideration on what's on the action. You need to see the content of the letter.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you, but in fairness, it does say response received from Buckinghamshire Council, works are scheduled for the new year with paving prioritised, literally what Louise just said.
Yeah.
So it is, yeah.
Well, we could do a response to it, but I was hoping that you agree that we see the letter in the new year.
But it's sounding.
Well, the letter, well, I haven't seen the letter myself.
Oh, okay.
No, I haven't seen the letter.
Okay.
We informed me about that.
Clarifies it, it's not a letter, it's an email. So it's not. It's clarify it. It might make sense to follow it up. We're gonna get any.
As long as they do the job as soon as possible, it's all be interesting. I'll just give it a time and a date. And plan.
Okay, which council? The members happy to receive the letter in the new year and will do response if you feel that is necessary to be which is the next item. In the world, don't get many letters now, only grants and money.
Trying to drag it on, do you know?
Yeah, okay, right. We'll move on that. Is there anything else in the action list members? Just, most of it's on the agenda. Have a quick look at it before we move on. There was some comments about the diversity of its tastes and if they're working on an event. Hopefully they'll come something in the new year.
Thanks. There was something, you know, on a skate park event. The reply was that Buckinghamshire Council have logged a number of repairs. Wasn't what we asked for. It says here that we write to Buckinghamshire Council requesting a safety report based on concerns that we have tagged over the years. We haven't had a safety report from them. We've just had, they've logged a number of repairs. So a little bit like we'll do the pavements in the new year. We've got nothing substantial here. We've got nothing that we can say, well, at least they know that there's all these issues. We've got nothing in black and white from them.
Anybody else got considerations on that? What I know, what the cabinet member said in his written response for the council, it's that he intends to have it constructed by March 23rd.
Yeah.
So that's in writing that they intend to construct it. He did say in that response that they're going to do the remediation. I do know there has been a safety. I'm not sure whose property that belongs to. I don't think it's allocated, but I understand that we've seen it. The officers have seen it. I haven't seen it. But there have been safety for those. How often they followed it up from our concern that you raised. But it's not our property that safety report. We do know that they have undertaken one. and it has shown things that you raised, Councillor, and the areas of concern. Now, what we don't know is the timing of the repairs. It just said they were going to make some repairs.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that we want to propose a way forward from that.
It would be nice to see the safety report. I mean, I understand that it's not our property, but then there's a lot of things that aren't ours that we asked to see. So, I mean, if our officers have seen the safety report, you know, it's just, again, it's something like the payments. We need to make, and I did read your written question and the answer that they gave us to that. So the timeline is good to have, at least we have a timeline for that, for the replacement of the skate park. But it's the bit in between that time that kids keep saying. It's
Well,
not
I'm
sustainable.
conscious that you were evidently received as your work, you what you've done, and at the time you received so much questioning on things about why leading towards you rather than me suggest the right word. So I think you do need to ask whether you see the same or that agree. And we need to. Yeah, we need to propose that. So we have
It's already on the action list.
And you need,
we need to propose it to ask to get it done, so it's really. So you have to propose that. Anyone happy to second that?
I seconded it
Okay.
initially, so I'm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and we'll get that, and we'll bring that back in the new year, and we'll ask the trade report, and if it is, are we in that, are you agreeing that we'll ask for time works?
Yeah, it can't hurt, can it?
Because we do have to consider it, because
Yeah,
we will be running a skateboarding event, hopefully in the new year. And what we couldn't do, I think, was one of the concerns. I can't speak for the officers, but I think there was a concern about running a safety event with the condition it was, which came back from the evidence, brought back from the last time we had it in the people who run the event. So we do need to be assured, hopefully, all this will be superseded by some rapid action in March, and we're ready for the summer. Are you happy with that? So we'll vote on that then. Right. Okay. In which case, we'll we'll both.
Make sure it's right.
Which case we'll move on to budget. Is there any commentary on the budget? This will be a little time to look through them. I know Lisa likes to go sheet by sheet, but we haven't got many sheets.
and that is resources to be.
Yeah, you have to like to go. I'd rather you look at it than not too many sheets. As you'll recall, we amended the budget at the previous meeting with the three steps, but that's what we do. We haven't made any changes to that.
there was, so later. Next year's budget.
Yeah, it's on there. We haven't made any changes to what we voted on. Minor changes. Yeah, it's on the agenda. Pay that as it comes, it's a separate item. The other thing I was saying is it's worth recording in the meeting. If you look at how well the markets are doing, and I think we need to record the figures which are in there, the accurate figures, and that isn't end of year. So taking by those figures now, by the end of the year, there'll be quite a lot more, probably multiple by. So when you think that when we were, and the market kept going really well through lockdown, and it was great, and we kept it open, and it actually was it was always quite nice in the massive queues for the bread store and the fresh vegetables. So I think we should note that, because I mean that's income that this committee earns, which goes against the total precepts. The action of this committee money for the actors of the operators and the market manager. We don't actually earn it. We talk about it being earned, which is slightly different. So I propose that we record the figures in the minutes and note that it is part of our earnings for this year and look forward to the end of year earnings. Margaret.
Yeah, thank you. Under earmark reserves, 9066 Swan Sculpture Project.
Yes.
It's showing 6,872 and 466.2%. I don't understand that.
Because we
Thank you.
couldn't actually take
Page
it
9.
forward last year, and that was for the Swan Trail, and we couldn't take it forward
Yeah.
because the timing that was completely wrong. We felt that we'd do it in the spring of the coming year or whatever, so that we got a longer value out of the project, and also would allow us to promote it more. Time when the funding came through, so close to the date we were going to do it, and it could almost be a biannual thing, and give officers more time to promote it and see that it takes place, which I know you were very keen on the last topic, and I know you had great pleasure
The otters.
with the hobby. So it could be that it will probably drift into half May and into the next year.
Yes, yes. So it shows us overspent. But we will.
Oh, right.
They released the funding at a
At a
certain
time.
stage.
So it's going to balance, but we've got it in writing if we agree to do it, and all the councillors on the community board agree to fund it, so that will come through. So you're quite right to raise it, Margaret, but should we ask for an update on a future agenda?
So we received the sculptures, is that the thing? We bought them and I don't understand why we've spent all this money already.
Oh, yeah, so we spent some of the money needed for the project for the sculptures and they haven't been delivered.
They haven't, no.
We will have them fairly soon then, because the whole process of decorating them will start much earlier in the year than it did when we did the bottom project.
And it will run from spring through summer rather than summer through autumn. And, but taking your point, Margaret, would you like to request it on the next agenda for update?
Well, it probably will need to anyway, will it, if we... No, it was just...
Concerns that will go on the next agenda.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Joanne,
It's like the spring anyway.
Yeah.
Anything else on the budget? The last time when we had our budget, you remember we had the earmark reserve marked. Which ones would be that? Sorry.
No worries. Just 9050, the bridge repairs. Are we expecting any further?
Well, it won't be this committee.
Oh,
It'll be under.
all right, that's next week then.
Well, no,
Not next week, Christmas next week.
the afternoon in the year.
No, there's environment committee on Monday.
Yeah, Monday.
Oh, I'm a week. I'm already a week.
Yes. Yeah, I know we're in December, but not Friday Christmas.
And we'll leave that to Anya.
Yeah.
To give you an answer next week.
Smashing.
When you,
Thank you.
Yeah, more precisely Lee, I would have thought, but
Smashing. Thank you.
The same officers. Right, anything else? It's always good to clarify these things anyway, right? Okay, in which case we move on to item 6, the written report.
So this is just been covering there essentially for the 2022 budget. Robin says it's very similar to the one you saw in the previous committee. The one change that's in there is that the recommendation that members recommend to the resources committee the transfer of £800 from budget 303.421 fringe to 102.432 publicity. That's the amount of money that earlier in the year you'll remember we agreed would be roughly what we would spend on the fringe brochure. next year, having we to change funding and deliver it. And essentially, that's the reason we've suggested that is that the agreements.
But what happened at resources, and there was a proposal that the to our mitigation, that they should trim the brochures with this PSG. Now, I discussed it after the meeting, thinking that it seems really ridiculous to do that because we will be wanting them to produce a leaflet for us because we've already taken. But it seemed much more sense that we transfer the budget to CSG, who would prepare it anyway, and we wouldn't be in the business of micromanaging what they do. They do the job, whether we want to do that. And then we transfer the budget so that next year there would be 4 magazines that would be for the CSG to decide how they focus in magazines. Obviously, we would like to see the copy of what they did for us, but it's not for us to discuss how they're going to put it together and how it's going to be done. We decided to take it back in-house because of the expense, but we're still going that. But we're basically paying this committee, paying another committee to do our work so that we don't have to reduce the amount of copies we have of the magazine. Now, they also made a funding cut and we made a decision because of funding savings, so the two savings have come together and it worked perfectly in sync. Anyone would be concerned about that would be surprised.
It comes to resources anyway, doesn't it, CSG? So
Yeah,
Well, it'll be recommended.
so it'll be recommended.
It's because we recommend resources to agree it, then we discuss it at resources in the year. I'd like to propose and second for that.
Yeah, I'm happy to propose that. It's a good idea.
Margaret second that. And all in favour? Thank you. Item 52, review the draft budget, which is just review. I don't think there's any change there. The big things in there are changing. Until they'll stay if they were what we really. Lisa.
thank you. It was a question. I can't find it now. I did highlight it on when I was at home, but I hasn't saved it. So it was to do with the comedy night. Right. Comedy night expenditure has gone down to 2,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
But when we discuss it next item, the figures go up to 1,300, not 2,000. So where's 700 difference?
Because the proposal for the next comedy night doesn't include a venue hire charge. Because they've been very kind enough to give it to us for free for the first session.
Yeah, they all don't add up to 2,000, no, not just Harmonium.
Yes, but I mean, if we continue, if the other two venues basically aren't going, it's tricky. I don't know if we should talk about this on that agenda.
No.
We do it all on the agenda, right?
Yeah, so the answer to the question is, yes, it's £2,000 tonight. That's my question.
Yeah.
The
that's fine.
figure will change in the next agenda item if we agree. Only if we agree. In which case we'll move to item 7 and now you can say it all again.
So, yeah, so all the they all add up to 1,300. I did the sums, whether it's a community centre, whether it's Tamay Mill, or whether it's RLS, not the 2,000. So if we've agreed that it's 2,000 now, then those figures need to be reflected then, because, for example, like with the Royal Latin, it came up that the comedian would only have £274, but we wouldn't then only have 274.
So the way we did it was we tried to think reasonably about how many tickets we could actually sell and what price we could sell that at.
Yeah,
And then how much money we would have then left to spend in order to break even.
I figured
So
that in.
we came up with the figure of £1,300.
Yeah.
But because Tanwell Mill isn't, we've used the two venues before, we haven't used Tanwell Mill.
Right.
So there is capacity there. We've gone for the same thing. We've gone for £1,300. If we did another event, it would cost more, so it would cost us more than £1,300,
Yeah.
or we could decide on a level. Yeah. But we also don't really know how to get people down there. So that gives us a little bit of flexibility to say, actually, we've got capacity to have here, we could sell more tickets, but the last event that we sold out. And it just gives us that flexibility to do that. We think that it will work. But we don't have to use the entire budget next year. We think that actually we don't need to spend that much, we can stick with.
Yeah, but we have to recommendation and recommendation. Then those figures that you discussed would be in play with the recommendation.
It was only that the figures aren't correct then if we've got £2,000, then the comedian for the Royal Latin wouldn't be 274. We would have another £700 to play with,
Yeah.
basically. So that's what I kind of wanted to highlight.
Yeah.
Was
Right.
the figures aren't right. It was they based it off 1,300.
We based it off 1,300 for an event that would be before the end of March, so
Yeah.
this year event. And so that's a budget that's substantially less than the comedy night budget is for this year. It was about trying something different in order to try and break.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. It's only me and Robin that have been, and Andy that have been to every single comedy night, so kind of
This has even got me on stage.
trying to get you off stage, you mean?
So you took me on stage and put it out on YouTube. That's all very grateful for that. It was one of my proud moments. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. And but with the recommendation, whatever, members happy with it, what we have to bear in mind is that this took quite a lot of time to do because we were in the midst of all the events and then to actually get to meet the universities. I think we should thank the officers
Definitely.
for the time
Yeah,
that they've
yeah,
given.
yeah. Thanks, Amanda.
I've just been, we can record our thanks to Amanda and Louise, who both attended, which means we can actually plan.
Yeah.
To do a comedy night, which
Good.
is what our intentions are. In which case, are we happy to agree the recommendation?
Yes.
presented? Proposal?
Yeah. Oh, no, you're having up
Let's
first.
do that. I've got on that way. Fran's proposal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have
We'll
that.
vote on that. Thank you, and that's a good job done, isn't it?
It is. Yeah,
Right.
brilliant.
Coronation event will be the report.
So we haven't put in a written report yet because we're finalising our plans, but to let people know our thoughts at this stage. Because the event, Royal Coronation, is going to be very early in May, we have two challenges. One is that the coronation itself is on a Saturday, and we think most people will be at home on a Saturday watching TV, so we don't want to do an event that clashes with that. And then also that we are reluctant to use the parks or the Green Church, for example, as a venue, because it's possible that they could be muddy. If it happens to be raining, they're much more difficult venues. So at the moment, we're thinking we'll use the town centre and perhaps sort of leaning on the fact that the King is a very environmentally focused person. We might adjust when we normally have the Spring Green Fair, move that to become a bigger event, but focused on coronation, still an environmental theme. So that's what we're looking at the moment.
So when is that for?
It would.
You can't do the 6th of May.
No,
It may be afterwards or before, depending on how your
yeah, we're kind of waiting a little bit to see what more information we get from the palace. Yeah, but probably I think maybe the Sunday. We also think there'll be a civic service on the Sunday evening.
So are we happy to know what it is, and then we'll come back, because this, I don't believe they've actually given any individual announcement yet anyway.
It's very little information.
We haven't done one of these quite a time.
We haven't done anything.
Having these coronations really conquering different. We'll go with it and see where it comes in. Obviously, can't really do is spend money when people aren't going to be there. So I bought the opposite idea. Environment fits in with the calendar of events that we've got, where we would be utilising that event, and if we grow it to where it is, we put the road closure in slightly different, in the area where we have it, we'll get some of those strange forestmen. Beards now moved to another council. Several names. You're happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Updates and representative outside obvious.
No, but the minor rest of that part is
What about it?
technically.
Oh, yeah, the request from Line West, which date? I don't think decorating, like we want to do, is going to interfere with anything, is it? Are we happy to agree that? It's not right to town up, and it won't be an area that we're going to perhaps use, and if they find pleasure out of doing it, why not? But I have a proposal and set for that. Okay, we'll do a different this time. We'll go with Margaret and around this time to get some different things on the agenda.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Everyone's in favour of done that, right? I apologise to Miss No, that's.
You just do the hands up again.
All right. Okay, hands up. You see that was unanimous. You did it very quickly while you were living. How are you like this? I was telling, honestly, what the video back very quick. There's some representative outside bodies for the second time of asking. Nobody else in there. I mean, I won't give any updates from Buckingham Council. I'll say those, but all council. I just say that David was interested in I had a thing on about, you know, like the historic building structure stuff in the town. There's a website now which they're going to post it where you can see which buildings are of note in your area, whether they're being made feature or not made feature in the meeting today. And I think that maybe the office would get the website and circulate it. I know everybody's got an interest in Buckingham, and what you think is there's a portal you can go in and put in what you want to do, and grade it. And it might be that the council looks at the website and then decides that it doesn't match what we think is historical, that should go to another committee to do it. But I'm just making you aware of it's out there. I asked the question today, but they made an archaeology. As you can imagine, an ongoing thing. The officers are in the room. But I think I'll talk to them about that and get it to go practice. Where would that go to? If it's more like planning. Yeah. But we'll discuss it and then let the officers. It's to do with historic buildings and structures which are I'll email you the terminology side that. But I'm precious that we protect our buildings and note in Buckingham. Make sure things obvious things like the Chancellor Chapel being hidden, those sort of things, that they protect them from any untoward. That's important. And the officers have done this before. It's going live. It's going to be all wonderful. It's a live document. It's not a static document. That's why town parish councils probably know their areas better than the Buckinghamshire councils. And that's why I mentioned it. Apologise to mention it, but I didn't actually remember the correct name for it, so it wouldn't be correct, was it? But with
That's
that,
good to know. Thank you.
with that, look, we'll move on to item 10, which is Forthcoming Events, which is going to do that.
Yeah, missed an item. The updates from representatives on outside bodies.
Just done that.
Oh, right, oh,
That's what I
sorry.
was talking about, right?
Oh, sorry, my.
I do it all again, but I think everyone's bored by then.
I'll have an update, but, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I spoke to Kate from the youth club and handed over my contact details to get the ball rolling on some much needed refurbishments for the
Youth centre.
yeah centre.
Yeah.
I mean, Katie, okay.
Katie, that's yeah, sorry.
But for the minute, it's Ryan represents the town council on the youth centre management committee, was active in trying to work with the committee to improve the building there, along with the committee. But that's is relevant to the context of where Ryan is with it. And I don't think it's fair to ask Liz to declare an interest if you didn't know what Ryan was going to say.
I don't have an interest
No,
in
you
the
don't.
building, it's in by Buckingham Council, so none of us have got an interest in the building.
Apart from the fact that historically this council, 25,000 pounds to fuel and
That's where I'd have an
that's
interest,
where you have.
yes, of the building.
Right, okay, we're going to item 10 again. Holocaust Day, if you remember last year, we were very lucky Margaret got to be the first mayor to have a Holocaust ceremony, which she did us all proud. And we had a gathering in the park where it was, and it was originally something that Councillor Ruth Neal always wanted to bring forward as a feature in Buckingham. She felt that but it was something the county hadn't actually done, and we should do. This will be our second year, and it will be on January the 27th. Is there anything additional to that date, anyone? Apart from what Margaret will be leading us.
Actually.
The deputy mayor will be leading.
Oh, I don't know your personal story. Sorry.
Yeah, I've had some conversations, well, email conversations with Margaret and with Nina, who is the officer leading on it. And it's going to be, in all likelihood, an event quite similar to last year, with readings by myself as the deputy mayor, and then we thought we might invite a member of the Jewish community to do one of the readings, and we might extend an invitation to the secondary schools to see whether they might like to select a reading and send a student to do the reading. I'm not sure how far we have progressed on this one. It's good that it's mentioned, because I will try and pick it up with Nina this week.
Are we happy to no, the mayor's supposed to the deputy mayor's doing it at others, which is quite a nice occasion, to be honest. And apart from it's about event, it's quite nice to actually all be together and recognise.
Yeah, no, it's an important occasion.
To recognise it. And we'll let you come back and update us at the next meeting when agenda it.
Well, by the next
Okay.
meeting, it will have happened.
Well, yeah, in which case we'll leave it for you. to sort out. Yeah, in which case, yeah, that's fine. We'll leave it with deputy mayor and that to sort out and notify us where we've got to be at the time. No, thank you. We've done comedy night, Pancake Race, 17th February.
Yeah, can I just confirm that that is the date, because that's not the date that's in the calendar that was issued at the last full council.
I can't.
It was on the 20, the latest calendar, unless I've gone
I
completely
don't think
mad.
you have. I mean,
It was the 21st of on Shrove Tuesday. And now, but I did have it in my diary originally for the 17th, so I keep crossing it out and adding it somewhere else. And I'm completely confused now.
It's meant to be Friday, but we'll double check.
It's definitely not meant to be. Oh, right, okay.
Because it's, I believe, Shrove Tuesday, not in half term. So I think we've moved it to the Friday so that it's in half term, but I'll double check.
Well, basically, we just turn up with loads of the video that's running and other people.
Amanda's got a hand up.
Amanda.
Hi.
By
I think Louise is right. Instead of us running it on the Saturday, we were going to try and run it on the Friday during half term and see how it goes.
Okay, we're happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, do we have to vote on that? We don't really.
No.
No, but I will, I'll check that it's right on all of the plans.
And
Thank you.
can you, another thing I didn't realise, what we speak to both the mayor and deputy mayor about it, make sure that the availability between the two of them really look, because they'll be there to oversee it.
Well, I have it in my diary twice, and I can do either. But I'd quite like to know which one it is.
You
You can go there twice. See what turns up.
Right, food fair, we've got down for the 11th of March in the community at 10 AM. I think Amanda's still working on that. Is she still with us? Over there?
Bethany's going to lead on the food fair this year. And she started, I know she has started on it because we were talking about it just before I came home today.
Okay.
But I think what she's going to do is wait until after Christmas before she contacts the majority of the people, because a lot of them are now doing all the big food fairs like Wadston and Blenheim and whatever. And we don't usually hear from them till after Christmas because they're too busy. But she's working on it.
Can I just ask that we make sure that we notify Councillor Davis of all the details that she's leading on the event, that we're involved in the what it is, and she can work with Bethany on it separately and update us. We will have a meeting before then, so we can get back to the meeting. We won't have a meeting before the 27th of January to really point out. So we're happy with that. Okay. Item 11, events review. Charter there.
Just say thank you for the BB gun thing. She was a friend of mine that phoned me up and she didn't know that her son had won it until she'd found her younger son had got a lovely big bruise on his leg. The other son. So yeah, she's quite upset about it, rightly so. The eldest son out of the family, he is 18. No, it's 17. Yeah. So you know, but the prize was won by the younger son, not the nearly adult son. So just thank you to the office for dealing with that very quickly and efficiently, and saw to it that the guns weren't on again the following week. Because we did have an agreement a few years ago that we weren't going to have any arrows or anything like that. No spud guns. It was all meant to not be, was it? So it's obviously slipped on that.
One of the things is that when they're setting up the stalls, we go around officers do a safety walkthrough.
Yeah.
Quite often they're still pushing stuff out after the walkthrough, which I think is quite good because we actually walk through from there, and that's an occasion where they can get those sort of things up again.
Yeah.
But Marshall really very good at going and stopping that kind of thing. Ryan.
I'm just going to agree with Councillor O'Donoghue there. I think that you know, if we're selling BB guns, also what does it say to the local community that are coming in to become new residents of Buckingham as well? We've got a large, we've got a few Ukrainian refugees. I think that I welcome this sort of thinking from the officers.
Well, the fact is, as right says, it's not supposed to happen. We've told them it wasn't happening. The fact that Councillor raised it meant it was stopped, and much to their credit, and Marshall. What we will do is reaffirm that conversation again at the appropriate time.
Yeah, thank you. I have to say I was quite shocked when I read that in the report that would have happened. It would never have occurred to me that was a possibility. So you know, we have got, it's a lesson that we've all got to be especially vigilant.
But, you know, we do a safety walk, and when they're setting up on Friday, officers are around all the while, and you're not going to put your goods out until the morning, you're leaving there overnight. There is a danger that I think we definitely pick it up in our conversation in future years. Obviously, we won't forget, and as I said, thanks again for this and bringing it to attention, which is only through other people who can do this working together, and all the other things said by Brian, totally right. We are, you know, it's moving. The only thing through the clerk is that we need to move on with contracts with Sherman. I did during the period of I did meet them in the office and suggest that they need to move on with that. We need to get tenure with the contracts, because with the contract, though they may sign a contract with us, it will then have to go to resources from us, and then it will have to go to the Showman's Guild, and the contract has to be presented to the Showman's Guild, and then it comes back. So there's a time thing at all those points. It has to be in linear. Louise and I have both done this anyway. So I think the district board agree that we need to get on to the contract. So I propose that we get on with that work at the earliest time. And we're happy to second. Right. That's excellent. Yeah, but we can't time that. It's very easy. It has to be when they're in the country, when they're available. So why is it at the most appropriate time? But that's an opportunity to talk about what we're saying.
I have a question. And it is genuinely just a question, so don't bring anything into it. I have noticed that we have environmental impact reports on a number of the events, but unless I'm blind, I couldn't see one for the Charter Fair. And since it's been raised in other forum, in not necessarily ways we would have liked before, I wonder whether it is feasible to have an environmental impact report on the Charter Fair in future, with a view to see whether, you know, whether we're happy with it or whether there's anything we could make it more environmentally friendly. So it's purely a question, but because I noticed there were quite a lot around the bonfire.
I'll part answer the question, that's all right. And then Charter Fair being a Charter Fair, we're obligated to have it. And we choose not to have it if we were to go to the free Parliament. I wouldn't know where to start by measuring individual things, because we don't actually book the people who come to the fair. We actually, Mr. Marshall Nichols runs the fair on our behalf, but we don't know who's coming, and he doesn't necessarily know who's coming or which ride the family is going to bring to their allotted areas, like Anglo-Saxon grazing rights. Each person comes every year and they retain their right to come to the fair. If they don't come that year or the next year, it can be offered to another family. So how you would quantify what ride would turn up and what the carbon footprint of that ride would be, I really don't know. The only thing I could say is that as you raised it, it would be something that we could ask the office to see what other authorities do. You know, Oxfordshire has to be there, Whitney has to there, see whether there's anything that they've done that we could learn from, rather than try to invent it ourselves.
Yeah. I'm not saying we need to invent it ourselves. Sorry.
No, well, thank you. I think it's a really interesting question, but I just wonder whether the difference is this isn't our event, whereas the ones where we've got an environmental impact assessment are our events. But I do think it could be worth, having said that, I do think it could be worth exploring with marshals whether it's something that they've considered, or if not, whether they should consider it, and emphasize to them how important the climate emergency is to us, and whether there's anything that they are doing or can do which would minimize the environmental impact of what they're doing.
I think you're right, but I've just changed the way we did the proposal. What I'm proposing is the RT office to look into what other places do. But at that point, we have the information, be able to approach Marshall about what good practice is, if there is a good practice out there. What I don't want to do is suddenly prompt on Marshall how we're going to do environmental impact. We've never been asked it anywhere out in the country, because it's quite, anybody involved, it's quite a handy, you understand what I mean, it's quite a rapid changing environment, and people from the show come from very different parts of the country.
I'll second you for this.
Please,
I think that'd be a good, I would agree that's a good starting point.
We can discuss it. Right, which case move on to art event. Who wants to lead on that?
I can speak about that one.
Yeah, please.
It was a lovely cheap event. It cost about £30, and we had lots of lovely people come out, sit down, do some art together. There were some very lovely families, grandparents with their grandchildren, in chats. Some people I know through children, so it's smart.
What I can say from the I'm still thinking to thank the officers for the first place, which is such a good sense. And I'm certainly feel about painted a couple of them, and I do enjoy watching the examples. It's something in the town centre which at the moment parents are looking for something to do financially, burn some of the, and it's something we can do fairly cheaply to get a really big return back on how many parents entertain their children. I do think there's a consideration about when we do it again.
Sorry, I shouldn't have eaten that sweet. Anyway, what I was trying to say is really just to add my thanks to the organisers of this. I think it's an excellent idea to do things like this. So I've been thinking a little bit lately about how we help people with the cost of living crisis. And one thing is, you know, you have to do more than eat and heat your house. And if you have children, you have to, you know, you've got to do something with them. And this sort of thing where they can kind of come out, it's free for them, it's practically free for us. It's a great initiative. So thank you very much for whoever came up with it.
The claim credit for this.
It was a king. But no, it's really nice. I completely agree. One of the things I most like about it is that it's completely free. We don't have anything there that costs you any money. Everything is free. Take your art home if you want to, and leave it behind. It's just very relaxed.
Can I add that I spoke to people after the fireworks? I know we're bringing this up, but since I've raised this, family with 3 small children, not in any way poor, you know, they're reasonably well-off middle-class people, but they still said, you know, normally it costs you a tenner per child to take at least to enter something, and to be able to go there, have an evening's free entertainment for lots of families, that is a really, really big deal.
Council always had a social dynamic about helping people where we can. Opposition have got really good ideas. This was their idea, and it's been an absolute success. Now, what counter consideration, we might do it on a more regular basis. I just propose we do that, but we leave the officers to time it, because it's done around the work in the office and school holidays and that. But leave them the liberty to be able to pick the times rather than us be descriptive about it, because they know best. Those who are bringing up children know best what the times are, don't they? So I propose that we allow them to look at future events and come back to us with when it's appropriate, but we shouldn't be choosing that. Anyone happy to second?
Yeah, let someone else do it.
Okay, Martin, we'll have Fran as the proposer and Fran as the seconder, and that's taking my name off the minute. All in favour of that? Thank you. Which brings the Halloween disco. I didn't go, but the report is good, and you've got you can see from the cost of it how prudent the office has been in managing that event. You can see that the return to it and the popularity of it is clearly there to so any comments on that?
I just thank you to
Do it again.
Sam for
Yeah.
putting it on, anybody else that was involved with it, we can put it our thanks, because it seems like a good event again.
Is it, because one of the feedbacks was that they couldn't get tickets because they'd sold out very quickly, and suggesting that they have a second event, which I'm not sure is feasible, to be honest. But I don't suppose there is any way of increasing the capacity.
Sorry, I have spoken to Sam about this before. So it's limited by the capacity of the buildings. You can't have more on the day. And then we did talk about whether you could sort of do it 2 days in a row, for example, but they can't do the other regular bookings.
No, well, I'm not sure it would be a good idea to do that.
I just wondered whether it would be feasible to have one earlier for smaller children, and then the later one.
That's an idea.
To take that forward as suggestion to look at.
Yeah, some things we get up and
So
share.
you're proposing that second, Margaret, thank you. For the office to go away and look at that proposal and come back. Got right. All in favour?
Yeah.
Right, which moves on to local democracy. You've got the report here. Have you got anything out of respect? Have you got anything to say on it, Lisa? Well,
I think it's a good event. An hour, I think we've said previous years, isn't long enough anyway. It was nice to hear that the Royal Latin School set up an eco group. And we'll try and tap into that somehow, because that's really positive. And Katie now works at the Royal Latin School, so the Gardens at the Youth Club, we might be able to partner some work there. But yeah, I think like talking to Margaret and Anya after the event, it needs to be something that we do more regularly, like through the year. And an hour definitely isn't long enough if we make it into a bigger, it'd be like the drum and art project, where that runs over 2 days, but the first day is the schools work together. So I kind of saw that as a similar thing, that they work together on it, and then the second day they come to us and we get some other people involved as well.
one thing I would say, I spoke to Forges after the event, and broke from talking after the event, and he said that there was quite a lot of stimulus within the school from the event. Believe it or not, politics is something young people are interested in, not in the same way that adults are interested in it. They're interested in things that they're interested in. They're not left or they're not right. But they're quite right about what they think about things, if you see what I mean. So he was keen to perhaps have it on a more regular basis, but I think that's something that we should leave the officers to explore, and then come back with the feasibility of doing it on a biannual basis. Maybe start with it is helpful conversation in school and giving children an opportunity to learn. And of course, I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there's the teacher who's from secondary school now moving on. So we need to make an additional contact who's keen on the event within the school. It takes time from the officers. So I'd like someone to propose that we explore with the school.
I'll propose it if it's.
And then we'll bring it back to discuss the outcome of those proposals, not to make it. We're doing that event with them. This report's very much about what the children want, not what we want. They're two different things. But you're happy to propose that. We've got someone second that. Margaret, thank you. We all agree on that. That way, we'll get something back, what they want, not we want you to do this. I think that's not where we are.
Teachers got to be heavily involved in that
Exactly.
conversation.
And we'll keep Lisa has led on the event for some years and keep you involved and staying touch with it as well.
Yeah.
Very reason. Right. Bonfire and fireworks seems a long time ago now. Didn't it? Andy, how do you think the event went?
Oh, the event
On that event.
well, I was not happy about the environmental impact 5.2. Who decided, or where was this decided? The traders beyond price single-use plastic. It's not a committee decision. So who made that decision?
So within the climate emergency action plan, which goes to this committee, it's
Yeah. I don't think it said that we could dictate to the traders how they run their business. So you're really impacting on people's livelihoods, on dictating to them whether they can use plastic, single-use plastic toys or not. Then we also all told Buckingham table that they couldn't have glow sticks, and they must source environment-friendly ones. There are no environment-friendly ones. So we are really impacting on the charitable money that they get from giving out glow sticks. So that charity has been impacted by what's happening. And then we then have the cheek to ask them to come and help clear up the following day. Come on, this is totally unacceptable.
Ask that, so they're the ones that come and clean up.
They're the ones that come and clean up, and we also tell, we also dictate. But I want to know, where does it say in the minutes that the single-use plastic toys at our events are not allowed? Because then I have another argument coming up.
Okay.
That should be right on this.
Okay, well, I'll try and answer something. I think what you said, that those actions come from the environmental action thing that we were asked to not use single-use plastic. What I don't think, where you're correct, is that we've ever discussed it in committee about the event. I think it's actually happened because officers have acted on the environment we've already voted on. The two things are linked, but they're not. If that's my explanation of it, if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong. When we made the decision of single-use plastic, it was for the council not to use single-use plastic, not to dictate. So if you're going to start dictating to traders that they use single-use plastic or not, then we better start a fair and all the other events we have that we can't have single-use plastic. You cannot choose one event like the bonfire and to tell people there you can't do it. Then you must also put you're going to draw a line and chart a fair and say that you cannot have toys with the single-use plastics. You can't do that, and you cannot impact on traders' livelihoods by restricting this.
Thank you for bringing it forward. I'm going to take Lisa and Anya, then I can discuss some further.
That's a point I was going to make. If the round table are the ones that are selling them for their charity, they also then come back the following morning to pick up their glow sticks that are left. It's not us that are selling the glow sticks. Like the fair, we're not the ones that are given the prizes, and they also have a lot of plastic as prizes. So how do we make that comparison that we're saying to a charity, you can't do this, that obviously makes them some income from it, but then we're allowing the charter fair stallholders to give out plastic toys that probably break in about the same amount of time as a glow stick.
I'll take Andy and I'll come back to you.
I'm quite happy to take the argument about the consistency. The argument about we can't dictate to traders, of course we can. We can say exactly what we want at our event and what we don't want at our event. That is like any other decision that we make about purchasing, that we make about when we're saying to the charter fair, a similar example is, for instance, that we don't want BB guns there. That is a decision we have made and that we want it enforced. In principle, the decision to say we don't want single-use plastic toys is the same scale of things. Whether we want to extend that or would want to at some point extend that and saying like about plastic and all the other things at the fair is a separate question. But the principle that we can set rules of what kind of trades and traders we would like at our event, of course we can, because it is our event and we can make the rules. And it's the same as we hire certain types of, I don't see that that there's anything that stops us from doing that. A different question is, would this committee have had to make a decision about the event that we were going to enforce that at the bonfire? And that's, I think, is Andy's other point. On that one, I'm not entirely sure. I think in principle, if there's a principle on this in our climate emergency plan, that wherever we can, we will reduce the use of single-use plastics. I think the officers were entirely within their scope of action for saying that this is how we run the events. We're not micromanaging the officers in every other respect on how they run an event.
Going to come back to Andy then.
Okay. The officers do not make decisions. It is the councillor who decide how the event is going to happen. They cannot say, limit arbitrary rules and say, you cannot use single-use plastic. I do not recollect any meeting where they said, we're going to stop single-use plastic. What we said, I can be stand corrected, but we as a council will not have at our or in the council have single-use plastic, not to tell others that they can't have single-use plastic. And as about the glow sticks, there were no glow sticks on the ground when I did the clearing up on Sunday. No glow sticks. So we can't even say that, oh, there's an impact there. There isn't an impact. The glow sticks are taken home. So there's nothing on the ground regarding glow sticks.
Thanks, Sue.
I'm just wondering if we as lay people on a council really understand what impact single-use plastics are having to contribute to helping the climate emergency. Personally, I've declared war on plastic. I no longer recycle any of it. I think it's evil stuff. I'm putting it in the household waste recycling, and I'm making sure it goes to Greatmore and is burned and destroyed, because I feel incredibly concerned what happens to this recycling stuff. As far as I can work out, it seems to be being shipped off to Asian countries or Turkey, and there are great heaps of the stuff in places. I think we all need to really understand a lot more about what happens to plastic and how do we think that single-use plastic, the little bits and pieces kiddies are being given, is helping the climate emergency to stop that.
Thank you. Fran.
Thank you. I think that the issue with glow sticks is more than just the dropping them on the ground. Because of the chemicals involved in them, the plastic is not recyclable. So they do end up in landfill or in general waste. The normal glow sticks that are the ones that the round table have been selling for however long. I've just Googled it. There are environmental friendly versions of them which are available. There are compostable ones that are available. I think where we need to move forward with this is do some research and help the help table to be able to continue to fundraise and allow the children to have something which is safe to be able to use, that's not sparklers. Because the glow sticks have come about because of because sparklers are so very dangerous. The glow sticks came into use. So I think moving forwards, we need to look down these alternate lines. I completely understand, Andy, that everything that you're saying, but I do feel that as a council, we do need to be looking at the complete environmental impact of our events, and it's start to finish of the process, and not just things that get dropped on the ground. But it is something that we need to decide as a committee.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah, if that's a proposal, I'll second it.
I'm going to let Louise come back first, and then we'll move into that.
Just to explain what might seem, I do understand the what we've done here for this agenda, which we haven't done previously, has been consistent about what we're reporting at different events, and we're also trying to be consistent about what we ask traders of at events, because we were being slightly inconsistent before. There are, as we talked about already in this committee, still some inconsistencies, how we deal with charter fare, for example. So one of the things that we've looked to be consistent about is to say that if we as an office and if we as a council are not buying single-use plastic, we're not using single-use plastic in anything we're doing, when we book traders, we ask them, please can you not use single-use plastics? For the vast majority of the time, that's absolutely fine. They come back and say, yeah, we can use paper packaging, we can use this, we can use that, and we don't have any issues with it. It was a real shame with Roundtable this year, and I would support the idea that we would look at them to work out what we would do next year, so that they've still something they can sell. There are a few different options, but they've got a higher unit price, so it is a bit tricky.
I'll take Ryan, and I'll go back to the crowd.
Just for the we all voted on the climate emergency action plan, things like that, which have come through. I mean, I can quite understand where Andy's coming from, but also it does, to me, and it's down to interpretation now, says we're to provide recycling facilities at all town council events within town council owned buildings. Now, I think there needs to be a strengthening on that policy, or this climate emergency initiative or goal or whatever you want to call it, and saying events in general. But it's as Councillor Schaefer also said, we can ask them to, sell, recyclable things and, non-use plastics. I think that we do have the upper hand here in the sense that we've got to start moving our goals with our objectives.
I think
even at events.
I think we're in agreement here that I think it's a really fair point for Andy to make. He was not aware of that. I don't believe whatever. And I think the interpretation to the environmental impact on it and how we use the environmental climate change stuff with it. I don't think that that's not a good way forward or part of the solution I think we should take. And I think then we move to the next thing, which is how we ended up with the decision. But I think that's the second thing. If we take the third thing first,
I propose that we, as a council, do some work to look at environmentally friendly glow sticks or similar, and work with Buckingham Table to help them to be able to provide those to sell those, something like that anyway.
Top of my head. Just on to bring back what I asked.
It was very good. We all enjoyed it.
We initially said we need to do some research to have and help the round table.
But it's Buckingham table.
Buckingham
isn't it?
table.
Yeah.
Fundraise to vouchers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Happy to vote on that, everyone.
We've got a second.
I did, yeah,
Yeah. But that's a positive way for us.
It is.
The first part of it.
yeah.
Second part of it,
Just say a tiny bit about the second part. We did ask, we weren't, if people had turned up, it's a request.
I don't think it came across from speaking to the traders with a request, to the dictate. Sorry, and I cannot recollect the minutes or a meeting where they said that this is what we would do. Because if we decided to do that, then it must be on all our events, every event, not just bonfire things. All everything, even down to pancake race, everything has to be. If you're going to go that route, then we may not have any events at all.
like, I don't want to open an is and as in competition. What I'm going to suggest is that I've listened intensely to what Andy has said, and I recognise that it's a joint problem that I was aware that and I discussed that was going to happen. We'd had the same problem preceding year with one stallholder, and we had the same problem with another event in the summer when they resolved plastics. What we didn't do, and I'll take responsibility for that, we didn't bring that discussion back to the committee because I felt it was okay. The other, and I think to recognise what Andy said, it was never brought forward as a proposal. So what I would ask, if you're happy with this, Andy, that we allow officers to go away now and work out a procedure whereby that when there is something like this which is going to take place, that the person who's working within the event or the lead on the event is consulted, and secondly that then that comes back to committee in a more obvious way, because it is in the event, in the climate management action plan of a wish of the council which asks us to do something. So what I don't want to do is get into an event which I won't allow, is to take event by event by event and try to manage each event. Yeah, it's not on. We'll deal with this one today, and if I'm happy, if the members are happy for that, to move it forward, come back and allow Andy to be involved in that discussion of how we structure that, so that it respects what I think was, which I think correct in what it's in, unaware of it, or didn't realise that that's how it happened, and then we have to work forward in a positive way, which I think the first motion solved. Are you happy to do that and come back a bit with some way of doing it or better than we have done, so that an event, person who's doing an event, leading an event, is involved in that discussion, so they don't feel what happens if you do an event, people go to whichever person they want to, so they get the answer and a response they want, because they've been told in correspondence that this is what we were doing. It was all open above board, and the action plan led us that way. I mean, I meant that led us that way. So I take responsibility for not bringing it to the committee, or thinking it should come to the committee, and if we can allow officers to come back with a reasoned possible way of going forward, and let's not be in the blame game. Thank Andy for raising it, because what he's actually done is change the way we're going to look at going forward, environmental issues, and it's going to be positive. Right, I've got 3 people who want to speak, and then I want to close this down. Thank you.
I'd just like to make what I hope is a helpful suggestion. Shire Council has got departments that are experts on refuse and waste and recycling. I suggest that we get some of their expertise. For example, at the Great More Energy from Waste facility, the education manager there is an absolute expert on waste. So, you know, we could.
Well, that's,
Go to
we
environment with
can
that.
go to that, work it through, and yeah,
I think you've more or less said what I was going to suggest, that not propose that we bring this back to a future meeting and decide on a more coherent way in which we want to manage these things. So you've in principle already said it. I'm just happy to support that.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to say that maybe it's unfortunate if things haven't been done quite the right way, but I think it's really important if we're taking the climate emergency and our action plan seriously, that we're joined up, and so we don't allow things to creep in, because, and it's unfortunate we've not done it in quite the right way here. But there's an education thing going on as well, isn't it? If traders know the reason why we don't want them to bring certain things, that'll maybe make them think about, maybe I shouldn't take this to these other events I'm going to, and it could sort of multiply out. And if there are increased costs to them, if all the traders start to think differently, and why am I, and parents, I'm sure, are really delighted that children aren't being bringing these rubbish things home at the end of the day. So I think there could be a really positive outcome from us acting in this way. And we have got to be consistent across the board. And by allowing traders to bring things that would be just dropped on the ground potentially, although I don't know how parents allow children to do that, but you know, that certainly isn't the right approach for us. And I do think the fair is different, although I think we should do what we can, because it's not our event, and this is our event. So we have got the right to say what.
Are you happy with the suggestion? Because I'm not in the business here forcing blame. I think all you can make them worry about it is how it's interpreted. The office interpreted by someone which is voted on by full council. So I think nobody's here, and I totally understand, having the town has been running coordinating events so many years. It's absolutely right that he brings his concerns to the committee and airs them here, because from that we're going to move forward.
Absolutely.
So if you can bring back the time of your choosing for the event, how we process.
Probably the best way to approach that would be, if everyone agrees, that we have a general plan that is for all events, and that makes it clear the conversations that we've had in the office, how they tie in the emergency action plan, why we've interpreted them that way.
But I don't want to.
And how.
I think what I'm saying is, we bring back a plan for this event, then learn through this experience on how we can then, as we'll repeat the same question at another event that we haven't discussed it. I think every event we do has its benefits, its risks, and whatever. And I think an idea that a one fits all doesn't work. I think what we need to do is move gradually by amending and changing and advising to the point where we all want to be, which is to, like Sue, Robert, and never having anything thrown away. So I'm happy that we go away to this event, because that's what the item on the agenda is. If from that we come back with additional information, yes, but I don't want to have one size fit all, because I think we'll be discussing this on next event, and the next event, and the next event. And when we vote on something, we need to understand how it affects that event, not how it affects the thing. And I that's where I'm going. I might say tedious, but I think that's the right way to do this, not one fits all. We'll be discussing this on every event and every meeting thereafter.
Because I totally agree with you, Chairman, because next on the agenda is Remembrance Day Parade. So that's a single-use plastic, the poppy and the plastic that goes in there.
Absolutely.
So, you know, where do we really have to think this through properly?
Yeah.
And because we made this policy, We cannot then start telling the British Legion, no, you can't have copies in Buckingham of the single-use plastics. Really?
So I'm happy to suggest.
Would be an excellent
that,
idea.
this is what we are talking to go away and look at how we work forward. That would be a learning curve for us to then see how that went to move to other events because of very conscious raised them.
So keeping in mind the lead councillor on those,
So
the food fair and those and firework, we have to be
so that no point
involved with every email, every
Now, I don't think we're going to
conversation.
set out here to upset anyone, but I think it's good that we've had discussion. Actually, we move forward from that discussion and we've come to, I think, which is a sensible way forward. So I'm happy that we asked if something work to be done on this event, then we'll use that as a process to take everything going forward.
That's been voted on anyway, so that's one proposal, so
All those in favour of that?
it's already been
Already
been voted.
We haven't voted on that.
Sorry.
We voted on
Yes, we
the-
have.
This is the second thing.
Come on, we-
For the second event.
So what's the proposal?
Discussing again. If we, for this event, we are go away and look at plan of action, how we move forward with this event.
That has already been
That's
voted
been
on,
voted
that was Fran's suggestion that I
No, the
seconded.
bit was involving.
You
We
want
did
that
the single
separate?
action thing,
You
but
want
the
that
thing that we,
separate?
the second bit, the thing that we didn't do is to discuss, which is the second point that Andy raised, which was the point of involvement and the different stores. We solved the charity thing, but we haven't solved the store thing.
Your proposal is that each individual events are then looked
No,
at.
this event, we're doing this event.
You've already done that though.
No, this is we've done the charity.
I know what you're thinking.
I'm trying to,
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
trying to make it more complicated than it really is. We've done, which is why when Andy spoke, I was aware of meeting seven, I really would like to. Thank you very much. Finished? Right, thank you. What I was trying to explain to you, which I thought was quite clear, and even the person who raised it understands it, is that there's the other thing, is the thing we use practice in the store, you and people bring to it. And we had the question which Andy raised in his conversation about the fact that he was questioned about the use of that and how we have a conversation about those stores. They are traders. That's a different thing to the charity question, which we've resolved. But this is a question I propose that we ask them to come out of a way we can work forward to actually resolve that in keeping with our action plan in the climate emergency. That's as simple as that, involving the lead council. That's all it was. It was no more complicated than that. It was sort of,
Just for fireworks.
yeah, yes.
Oh, see, I thought you meant all the
No,
events.
no, that's what I was trying. We can't do all the
Yeah.
events. They're not on the agenda.
No, that's what I thought you were going to get. all back.
No, we're going to bring
Yeah.
something back on this. We'll learn
Yeah,
from
that's
that.
fine.
Members
Yeah.
happy to agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, show your hands. See very angry.
Obviously, you're proposing, is the second.
Yeah, I'll take on that.
And I think it was worthwhile. Despite the fact that
Definitely.
no, everyone seems to have different metaphors for it, but yeah, okay. Yes, let's vote on the recommendation.
Just that the entertainment of fireworks takes place before the fireworks.
That was the key part of the report. Quite right. Are you happy to agree that?
Yes, I'll propose that.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to be done that way. I'm sorry, it's just democracy works. I'm really sorry. Everyone gets to speak and everyone gets to say what they want.
Yeah,
of
course.
Okay, right. We'll move on to the next thing, which is the Remembrance Parade. Avoiding talking about single-use plastics. And Mari put out photographs in the right.
Yeah.
In which case, I'll be like anything when.
Well, Amanda could report.
Amanda, are you there, Amanda? Amanda,
Lost the will to live.
I'm here.
when you have an online. Yeah.
The
Are you there, Amanda?
Yeah, I'm here. You ready? The Remembrance Day Parade.
Go on.
The Remembrance Day Parade went off very well. Everybody met at on Market Hill outside M&Co and formed up and marched up to the church to the War Memorial. As we know, the parade is organised by the Royal British Legion, and we just provide the road closure and manning of the barriers, and our civic party take part in the parade. We had the big screen again this year, which went down really well. It was in the report, it tells you what the size of the screen was. It was a 5 metre by 3 metre LED screen. It came in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and our guys were there to help set it up. And this year, what we did was, I don't know, most of you were probably around the War Memorial, but because so many people gather or try to gather around there and in the gateway and out onto the road, we had marked off the path so that people would walk up the path and then follow the tape around so that they could go out onto the green to watch the screen. And that seemed to work really well this year. We didn't have as many people standing on the road. They filed round and stood on the grass and were able to see the screen. The screen was big enough that it was up against the wall of the church. And if you stood on the other side of the green where the bench is, you could see the screen clearly. So that worked. So we want to go ahead with that idea again next year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Ryan?
I propose that we accept the recommendation, but also a further caveat to that is to thank very kindly the Royal British Legion for shouldering the burden with us on the cost of the screen. I think that they are one of the best charities that we've got in this country, helping soldiers, and also, unfortunately, I couldn't be there this year, but I would have loved to have seen the event.
I think recollection from last year is they've got they had a legacy which they are using particularly for that. Yeah, so it's not coming out of their general funds. Okay. It's coming from the legacy.
Memory, I think. Thank you, Ben. I think Peggy Gale, who lucky to know that, she left a legacy to the British Legion to allow them to facilitate the event. I think that they are working with our office to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. I know that it says that our contribution and it's got the amount, but I think we also need to remember that the contribution is our staff's time. So, you know, our Green Spaces team were up at the memorial number of times and, you know, making sure that it was cleaned. So it isn't just that we're only contributing this amount and we're only doing the road closure. There's a lot of work that the office put in, there's a lot of work the Green Spaces team put in that is also our taxpayers are paying for. So I think that needs to be recognised, and I'd like to minute our thanks to everybody involved in that.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
I mean, I think that's what we're right. I know that work went into the event before and made sure it worked. One thing which was brilliant about the event was Richard thanking for it, was I think ex-councillor Paddy Collins being the person who stood to direct people where the event seemed to work very efficiently. And he made sure people knew that they were going to go around the things. I think Richard has to thank him for that, because without him being there, being able to have the capacity to say to people where they got to go and not being embarrassed to do so, we wouldn't have got people round to the back of the church. I think we can do our thanks to Mr. Paddy Collins. Many I think it's participating, and the other people that need to be thanked about the stewards. None of these events going, and you will love to see that ex-councillors like Councillor Smith came back to actually do stewarding. So I'd like to minute our thanks to and Terry Bloomfield. I'd like to minute our thanks to ex-councillors who came back to stewarding to make sure the event would happen, and the civic occasion took place. Do our thanks for it. But other than that, supporting the officers, these things couldn't happen.
Yeah.
Is that agreed?
Yep.
Yeah.
All those in favour?
Excuse
Thank
me,
you.
Councillor Stutchbury.
Yeah, go on.
Ruth Newell was also there. She
What's
came back.
it? Thank you. I
No,
think
she's
it's
there as Mace Bearer.
correct.
Oh, yeah.
It was her
Yeah.
first time out. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks to me.
Yeah, thanks to Ruth. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
She looked very glorious in that,
Should.
even though she had a sponge under it because it had things quite thick. Yeah, can we vote on the report recommendations?
Yeah, so we had a proposal from Sublime to the secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's your secretary?
Anyone?
I don't, fine.
Right, so we by,
Oh,
yeah, Ryan and which ones want to do it?
Oh, I proposed it.
Ryan proposed it.
I get very confusing, right, we'll move forward, that's great.
We're just clearly do the vote, just quickly.
Okay,
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
thank you very much. Right, okay, we'll move on to the written slide. The report is a good report, I think. Oh, the community affairs, basically. That's the place. Yeah, quite right. We have to know agree any recommendations in that report.
Yeah. Do it next year.
Yeah, and do it next year. Is that agreed?
Yeah, we got, is it?
And it's gone. Mayor and councillor and right, and that's agreed. Hands, right. Move on now to where I want to get, which is pretty right. Excellent report. I think credit to Weedsy and that event, the changes in it and how it worked. I think probably we tried lots of different things, but that seemed to be the 1 year that everything seemed to work better than it had done before. I don't know whether Madam Mayor feels
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the stage being that way round worked brilliantly. Actually.
And always using that other space beyond the wall to compromise people on the other side.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
we have to consider the other part in it, which is about moving the date, which is day of it, which is quite important. I might be what members' views on that aspect. Yeah.
Thank you. I can see the advantages of moving it away from the market day. I was slightly surprised you were suggesting a Thursday, but because obviously that'd be a school day the following day. Wouldn't a Friday be better than a Thursday? Because then the children haven't got to go to school the following day and you've got no conflict with the market.
yeah, I thought that was right.
It's not my report. I'm not suggesting it, but I'm here to present the report.
Just a question on this one. When is the stage being removed? Does that happen on the same day? Because if it happens in the same, yeah, okay, in that case. Thursday, Friday.
If I can explain a little bit the logic, part of the reason for going for Thursday is that a lot of staff costs and bringing everyone in for an event like this. It does require quite a lot of staff to run. If you do it on a Thursday, most people are working in that early evening period anyway, so you can do a lot of the setup time while people are working. Whereas on a Friday, on regular arrangements that most people finish reasonably early for Friday.
3 o'clock.
So that's part of the reason. The other part of the reason is that it potentially clashes with confidence. And people will be able to Wednesday just as a Friday. So that's another factor where I'm not totally set in stone it being Thursday. I would like to do, and it's in the recommendation, just that we should consult with the shops and restaurants, get a feel on what they think would be best. Because we would like to, as we did with this one, encourage them to stay at the same time.
I think Councillor Shepherd hasn't got that.
Just a quick question. When does the event end in the evening? It's not that late, is it?
So for this one, it ended at 8 o'clock. I think if we did it on a weekday, we would start earlier and we would finish slightly.
So the school day the next day isn't really I mean, I don't know how early people send their kids to bed, but presumably not, you know, an event that finishes at 7 would be a particular problem, I don't imagine. But I maybe completely.
I was going to say pretty much the same thing, that if it's dark by 4 o'clock now, so I'm like, it could be pulled forward and then finish earlier, so 5 till 7 or something like that. Yeah. And then shops may be open till 8, so people can go and do a bit of shopping afterwards. No?
I think the day needed to solve on, and I think Madam Mayor, Friday, sorry, Thursday, I think we need to. I'm sure the conversations. This came out of conversations, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, of our council managers spend a lot of time working in the community, talking to shopkeepers. But this idea hasn't come from nowhere. So that sort of conversation is the lead that was being given about keeping the shops open. And if we don't have the market there, we can have a few more other sorts of traders there and maybe generate some income on a weekday that we can't on a Saturday because we're generating income from the market. One of the things which I was down there from the beginning to the end, it was quite problematic to set up on a Saturday and to make sure you've got everything set up, and we were pushing against the clock to get it set up, and I watched carefully. We did hit time that if something happened, we wouldn't have managed to achieve that. You've got to get a staging as the market packs away, and you've got to move everything in. Well, I did enjoy the ground gear arriving. My main pleasure of the day, that's still around it. But so, are you happy that we bring the recommendation, go forward, consult, come back and make a final decision at the next meeting on the date and time?
Yeah.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, feedback that way.
No, but we've got more feedback. What will happen as soon as we say we're going to move it to Thursday or Friday, and we're not public about it, and we should say what we're discussing it so the public get involved in that discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
It's their event after all, wasn't it?
And then that will save a lot of time on Facebook or on social media. We can make a decision, and why won't we involved? And we may come to a decision for economic grounds and practicalities of doing it, but we've listened to everyone. Annie.
Question of clarification. Are you do not propose, no, let me phrase this positively. Are you proposing a formal consultation on this? Because that's an expensive thing to be doing.
No,
Thank you.
No, what I'm proposing is we accept the recommendation with a caveat that we'll agree at the next meeting after a little bit of consultation and a little bit of, we can just say on social media, we're considering doing this. And we can just pick up some of the vibes in the community, because we now know that the traders want to move, correct me if I'm wrong, were quite keen on the Thursday, weren't they?
I think so. Both dates came up, and we want to. It's because it's really important that those people that are advocating for one day or other are also the people that would like to stay open late, because we want to support those.
So we take everyone with us, but we haven't got to make this today. We know we're going to do it next year, but we do need to get the decision made reasonably so we can book people for it and get my reindeer back. I really enjoyed the reindeer because I got a nice. They cheered me up when they popped out the truck. So we're happy with that.
Yeah.
Those in favour?
Sorry, can I just clarify? Did we have a second in favour? Second.
And then we just dovetail it at the next meeting. Right. We've had comments on the Christmas parade from Councillor Mara, Councillor have more to start the meeting, but we are the committee. I'd like to those attended to have their thoughts on how events, things that we thought should happen, things we would like to happen in the future. Because we are, if you're aware that we're going to have a policy. I think going forward we'll have like what we expect out of an event, what we an agreement, We'll have an agreement for this event, same as we will for other events that we do with outside organisation. So there's no ambiguity, and there's no everybody knows when they agree something, that's what we've agreed, and that will be what goes forward. So I'd be interested in how those who were able to attend attended the event, how they found it.
Fabulous. Yeah.
I was pleased to see that the town council were, and the mayor and the mayor's bearer and the carriage were heading up the event at the time and not in the middle of it. What I did find quite difficult was the fact that the horses did gallop off quite speed, and it was quite difficult to keep up with them walking behind, and it meant that it got quite disjointed really, because the mayor and the race bearer were way up in front. We were trying to catch up with them, and then whoever was behind us, which was it? I can't remember who it was. It was
the cadets.
yeah, huge gap then for them. So it was like almost like the town council were just having their own little wander through.
That's why I don't take part in it. It's like they don't come to see. Yeah.
I think it was an unfair disadvantage because they got 4 legs and we only have 2.
Yeah.
We were all foggy councillors.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think that we have to establish is in our negotiations with them when we write the report is how we see the return for the money that we put into it, in the sense that some years, last year, all the prizes were handed out when there. This year that didn't happen, but we need to actually find out where the you did some of them. We didn't get back to there. Yeah.
Last year, it was the same last year as this year, actually, that I got back. And then at the point when I arrived, there were 3 of us handing out prizes. So we were doing it alternately. And that was the same as what happened last year. So I didn't give out all the prizes last year. I just gave out some of them in conjunction with the Vice Chancellor of the University and the MP. We were doing it alternately.
I know he was here this year. I think we have to just make sure that when we write the protocol that it's agreed that we ensure that the civic part of it is wrote into it, and that we make sure that we don't put any noses out on.
I think the protocol will need to say no reversing along the parade, but weren't Paragon fabulous?
I thought it was brilliant. Yeah, very skillful.
So are we happy to note the report, and we're happy to bring back a future meeting? I haven't noticed because she's in that bit, and it's Amanda.
It's at the top there.
Sorry, Amanda.
I'm still here.
Sorry, Amanda.
No, that's okay. It's all right. You cut in and out every now and again, Robin. So I'm not quite sure what you were saying.
We're at Christmas parade, Amanda.
Yeah, I know we're on the Christmas parade. I wasn't sure what Robin was saying just now. That was all.
No, nothing. Just say what you're going to say.
Oh, okay. I think all I want to say is that Louise and I turned up at 7:15 Saturday morning, ready to start checking on cars that were parked in areas where there was no parking. I think we froze, didn't we, Louise, Saturday morning? It was so cold. We had 2 police officers from the local neighbourhood team come help us. There was, I think, 3 or 4 cars that we had to call into them, and they contacted the owners. There was 1 car that didn't get removed, that they couldn't get hold of the owner for that one. We had Amber on, the traffic management company, that have helped us last year, and I think it was the year before that, come out and help us, and they were sat up on the roundabout at the top of the Stratford Road they got here at about 7. Well, no, they got here at 6:30 because they met with our guys and handed over some cones and different bits and pieces. They did a good job. They coned off, I think it was 50 metres of the road that comes in from Stony Stratford, just after Lock Meadow Farm, to the roundabout, so that they could filter vehicles off to the left to take them out onto the bypass rather than send them down in the town centre. But our marshals did really well. And this year we had 20 walkie-talkies. So every marshalling position had somebody that had a walkie-talkie, and we were able to keep in contact with each other that way.
Thank you, Amanda. One thing I'll say that rather like the Christmas parade, the Christmas parade, I mean, remember it's the staff turning out in the morning that makes the event happen. I was on the radio early in the morning. Those unfortunate enough to hear it. And I looked outside at that point, and it was really cold, and it was really cold from the start that morning. And I think it paid credit to them for turning out. And what I noticed when I arrived here, I looked at the staff walk, but I could see we didn't even see you. You were shivering as you went by. I looked at Amanda and the wings were walking by me. I said hello, and they were and I could watch them shivering as they walked by me. And they just wandered around, and they were clearly walkie-talkies, and there's a lot of conversation going on to make sure it all works. And we shouldn't mean our entire gratitude to that, because it was a cold day. And also the children's tournament was cold, but the staff have been there so many hours before. Yeah. And if they wasn't there, the event couldn't take place. We wouldn't have the privilege of discussing it. Yeah. The town wouldn't have the privilege of having it. And that's only because our staff are so dedicated that happened. And it's really cold for people. I didn't feel it myself, but I know people feel it cold. Madam Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Just to clarify what I said earlier about the prize giving, because I don't have the kind of memory. This year it was definitely the Vice-Chancellor, the MP and me alternately once I got there. Last year there were also 3 people giving out prizes, but it was the Vice-Chancellor and me, and I think it might have been one of the Deputy Lieutenants, but I'm not absolutely sure. But there were 3 people each year giving out prizes alternately.
The MP wasn't here last year, I don't think.
I think what we need just that,
but I just for clarification, because I might have said it slightly wrong before.
No, I remember the faces on. What I would suggest is then that the future meeting, we're going to bring forward how we're going to engage them, which is basically the agreement which Louise is working on them for this spring music festival. And Bandjam, yeah. Because we need to have Louise is quite rightly pointed out, there's no consistency in our in the way that we react to people, and it's very difficult. Points raised by Andy earlier in the meeting, if we don't have a consistency that they know where they are, we can't actually say, well, we've agreed this, that's how we're going to run the event. And she's absolutely right to do this. So she'll do something for this. It will come to this committee, and because it would be like it would take it under advisement from the town clerk. Whether it's actually a contract or whether it's an agreement. If it's a contract, it will then have to go to the authorities. If it's an agreement, I think it will stay within this committee, but we'll leave the town clerk to decide that. But a minute all the thanks, and it was nice. And also, moving swiftly on to the community fair, we need to thank Terry again, because Terry, not only did he do mace bearing, he also got up early in the morning and helped start the community fair. So he was a complete star that day, and did more than any person could expect of him. You know, and it was ruthless remembrance. Terry at the parade was rather nice, and I got a lovely picture of Madam Mayor and Terry together. It was got a nice picture. I never managed to get one of you in room. Brilliant. Lisa.
Thank you. The comment about the community fair was from my mum and auntie who came up from London. Because the car park doesn't reopen till 12:30. And the stall holders, it was very thin on the ground in the community centre, and they started packing up around 1:30ish. And yeah, so it's kind of, the question was asked, how people are able to get into town if they're driving. They can't park, they can't actually get into town, and then they can park again, and then the community fair closes quite early. But we don't do the community fair side of it, so it's just feedback from that, really.
It was very full in the community fair, and Amanda, the less she wants to say is different, managed to get, I think, 17 stores. Like,
yeah, that's good.
You know, in there, and they were local.
A lot of them are closed up then.
And this event was really started by Robert Lehman when he was a councillor, been running with Terry since 1996. So I had the conversation with Terry. So that community fair has been running since 1996, when Terry was the community centre manager and used to go and open up the Rock and let Rob do the event. So it's been running a long time. So it's been consistent, and it was very well received. Because you might have been the cold, but they didn't like getting the door. But it was good.
Just to add that Catherine, she is going to have some of her pieces at the craft fair, which is at the community centre this Saturday, because she sold a few pieces but not a lot, so she wants her knitwear to go out again this Saturday. So that would be nice if we can have another bite of the cherry with her donations.
Yeah.
So we will, as with other things, we'll come back next committee to report on this. But I do believe that Amanda wants to say something. I think Catherine said that she made quite a bit of money in donations.
Yeah, she did.
Having said that,
yeah.
Yeah, Catherine sells her knitwear at craft fairs and at the community fair. She's also sold it at other events that we have done, and she raises the money for the mayor's charities. And at the event on Saturday, a lot of it, she said, was donations, but she raised £168.
But the thing is, to clarify, she doesn't sell them, she asks for donations.
Correct.
So people could put in 50p if they don't have enough money, or they can put in £50. It is purely donations. She doesn't sell, preferably, but yeah, and it goes to the man's charities. Yeah.
Which is nice, because that's
it's really lovely.
Really lovely.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
We agree to minute our thanks to Catherine
Yeah.
for raising money for the mayor's charity.
Yeah.
And I'd minute our thanks to Terry
Definitely.
on both aspects, because he was an absolute star that day. Going to the community fair, they go back up, put the base fair, and then going back down, I think, to the community fair later on, and giving me a rundown of the complete history of it, which I didn't realise it started in 1996, which is great, and we're lucky to have him. I think that we need to bring the community fair back to a future meeting, discuss how we go with it. I think it's unfair to expect that to wait on Terry going forward. I think we need to find a way forward. But are you happy with that? Positive all round then. Access, I think we really did access. If you're happy, committee, we discussed the issues of access on the action list, so we don't need to do that again. Climate emergency, I think we've probably given that quite a good airing tonight. Climate emergency, probably more than we've ever done, thanks to Andy's contribution. And on press releases, with your agreement, I think this has been quite a difficult and long year for the staff. And I think we need to do some public press release about thanking the staff, all the effort they've done this year. They've not only had to do the announcement of the sad passing of the Queen and organised all that event, which was additional to what they already were doing. And but then in the summer, we had the pleasure of doing the announcement of the Jubilee, and which was more than what we'd done before. Then, of course, following on, we had we're going to be doing, we now have a new king, and we're going to be doing a coronation event next year. But all those additional events or additional work which weren't actually scheduled in, none of that apart from Jubilee. And I think we could agree a press release thanking our staff.
And of course, the change of clerk.
And the change of clerk, that's very.
And Deputy Chamber.
And the change of Deputy Chamber. I think we should put a press release out, notifying them of the change of offices, notifying them how that this is only possible that we can do these events because of.
Sure, you can word it nicely.
Around that, and that we vote on it as a committee to agree that, so that it's not just what I'll get copied together and
Don't forget the green spaces too.
and the two maze bearers, which are additional changes, and the green space. Well, the green space is really handiest, but
Well, they are members
but we'll do
staff,
that.
aren't they?
We'll bring all that so we can get it all into your staff. Quite a tremendously changeable year, and everybody's done what they were supposed to do in changing times and challenging times, and not let us down once. And I think that is important that we put a press release out, recognise that the public actually know we presented, we discussed it.
We thank in our
And
minutes,
they
they don't read our
They don't
minutes,
read our
so.
minutes. I think we should press release about all those things. 2 new maze bearers, and all this stuff. We'll put it all in there so that people can see that it's been a big traumatic year change.
Yeah.
You know, from one point to another.
Agreed.
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 With that,
Yeah.
we'll put that out in the new year.
Second, third and fourth.
All in favour?
Yeah.
And then we'll put that in the new year. Just for the committee, I think it's important. We couldn't function without it. And with that,
Tony, my laptop's just crashed.
that's good. With that, I wish you all happy solstice, Christmas and New Year, and may it be everything you hope it to be, and may everybody be well fit and healthy for next year, so we can all
Thank you, Chairman.
meet again and discuss it. It's important. Look after yourselves and your families.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Very